Imagine a force so powerful, so transformative, it's not just another tech leap. It's like a fundamental engine reshaping global power. Industries, too. We're talking about AI, of course.
Okay.
And it presents wealth opportunities, well, unlike anything we've really seen in the last 30 years. Think about it. Whole sectors that feel like unmined gold mines right now, just waiting. Today, we're going to dive deep into this global AI investment landscape. We'll look at the two-hero showdown, that's the U.S. and China. We'll connect AI's rise to these grand historical cycles, and crucially, try to figure out what it all means for you, as you navigate your own future, financial and personal. I'm honestly really intrigued by this mix. You've got these huge macro forces, geopolitical shifts, and then, well, the choices we all have to make.
Exactly. And that's kind of the mission here, isn't it? To try and synthesize all this complex stuff, connect the dots between the tech, the economics, and practical strategies for you. It's really a chance to cut through some of the noise, think critically about what's actually going on.
Okay, let's unpack this then. This AI investment ecosystem, it seems truly vast, multi-layered, from like the basic research all the way to commercial stuff. How's it looking globally right now? What are the key trends?
It is immense and moving incredibly fast. It's kind of structured across a few key areas. So first up, you have venture capital VC and private equity. This is that really dynamic layer funding the startups, the innovation, and the focus has sharpened, It's moved beyond just hype. We're seeing huge interest in generative AI, obviously, but also core AI infrastructure, think advanced chips, cloud services, and specific industry uses. So like health tech, fintech, cybersecurity, robotics, that sort of thing. Key players, folks like Sequoia Capital, Andreessen Horowitz, A16s, they're big forces here. But the key takeaway isn't just who's funding, it's that the smart money is now really chasing companies with proven revenue. That signals a shift, doesn't it, from just potential to actual business cases.
Right, so less speculation, more focus on profitability.
Exactly. Funding might have cooled a tiny bit overall in 2023, but it's concentrating. It's flowing into those foundational model companies, OpenAI, Anthropic, and startups that can show a clear path to making money.
Okay, so that's the startup world. What about the big players, the public markets?
Right, the public markets. Here you've got established companies, two main groups, really. First, the enablers. These are the companies making AI possible. Chip makers are absolutely vital. NVIDIA, well, they're still the undisputed leader with their GPUs for training AI models.
Yeah, everyone talks about NVIDIA.
They are central. But you also have AMD, Intel playing catch-up, and crucially, manufacturers like TSMC and ASML. They actually make the chips.
The foundries, got it.
Precisely. And then, don't forget the hyperscalers.
Yeah.
The cloud giants, Microsoft Azure, Amazon Web Services, AWS, Google Cloud Platform, GCP, they provide the raw computing power, the tools, essential infrastructure.
Okay, so enablers. Who else?
Then you have the tech giants themselves. They're not just enabling, they're defining the landscape. Microsoft, deeply tied in with OpenAI now, putting Copilot everywhere. Alphabet, Google, and DeepMind with models like Gemini, weaving AI into search, everything. Meta is interesting too, pushing open source AI like Llama, using AI heavily for ads, feeds.
And Amazon.
Amazon uses AI all over its logistics, obviously Alexa, but also offering tons of AI services through AWS. But here's a key point for you listening. Almost every major corporation is becoming an AI stock. Think JP Morgan, Toyota. They're all investing heavily, integrating AI for efficiency, new products.
So it's not just tech stocks anymore, it's everything.
Pretty much. The question is shifting from if they use AI to how well they use it. We also see a lot of corporate investment and M&A. Big companies aren't just buying AI tools, they're investing directly through their own venture arms, like Google Ventures, Intel Capital, and they're buying startups.
Acqui-hires.
Exactly. Buying the talent as much as the tech. It's a major exit route for VCs and a talent pipeline for the giants. And finally, there's government and national funding. This is crucial and maybe underestimated. Countries are treating AI like a strategic priority. Big money going into R&D, national compute power. That's becoming a key differentiator.
Wow. Okay, that paints a picture of a huge interconnected system. And it really drives home how investment, while global, seems super concentrated in just a few places. That concentration isn't just economic, is it? It feels deeply geopolitical. Let's get into that two-hero showdown you mentioned.
Precisely. The global AI scene is definitely shaping up as, well, maybe multipolar isn't quite right yet. It feels more like a real two-hero showdown right now, primarily between the U.S. and China. They're vying for AI supremacy.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, I think. A lot of the analysis we looked at clearly puts the U.S. out front, at least for the next, say, 5 to 10 years. What's the thinking behind that? Why the U.S. lead?
Yeah, there are several strong arguments for that. First, the U.S. just has this unparalleled private capital and innovation ecosystem. Think Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
The sheer amount of VC money, the top tech talent, that ingrained entrepreneurial culture. It's unique globally.
The flywheel effect you mentioned.
Exactly. Ideas get funded fast, attract global talent, scale up quickly, get acquired or go public, and then that wealth and talent feeds back into the system. It's incredibly dynamic, hard to copy. Second, American companies really dominate the foundational models and the hyperscalers. The companies controlling the underlying cloud infrastructure, AWS, Azure, GCP, and the most advanced big AI models like GPT or Gemini, they're almost all American.
That gives them huge leverage, right? Strategic, economic.
Immense leverage. Third, U.S. big tech has just been incredibly aggressive. They're throwing vast sums of money at this and moving incredibly fast to integrate AI across their global products. They're basically setting the standards. Fourth, the U.S. is still a huge magnet for global talent.
Despite immigration hurdles sometimes.
Despite hurdles, yes. World-class universities like Stanford, MIT, plus the draw of working at the leading tech firms or hot startups, it pulls in the best researchers and engineers from everywhere. And finally, that first-mover advantage in generative AI, ChatGPT, just exploded onto the scene. OpenAI, being US-based, gave the American ecosystem this massive head start, shaped the narrative, and really accelerated adoption.
Okay, that's a very compelling case for U.S. dominance in that, foundational innovation space.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's a showdown. It would be a massive mistake to just count China out. How is China positioned? Where are they emerging as a really formidable challenger?
Oh, absolutely. China is a force, no question. A key difference is their government-led national strategy. The Chinese government has flat-out declared AI a national priority. They're mobilizing huge resources for R&D, for national compute infrastructure.
Which lets them move fast on big projects.
Yeah. Incredibly fast. Think about national surveillance systems, smart city rollouts. That centralized model can direct capital and talent much quicker than, say, a decentralized democracy. It's a structural advantage for execution. And then there's China's dominance in applied AI and data. This is huge. Their less stringent data privacy rules mean companies have access to truly vast data sets. And data is the fuel for AI.
Right. More data, better training.
Exactly. They're world leaders in things like facial recognition, digital payments, social media algorithms. China genuinely has, as one source put it, the world's largest and most complex, diverse racetrack for AI application scenarios. 1.4 billion people generate a lot of data.
The scale is just hard to comprehend. You mentioned mobile payments.
Yeah, the numbers are staggering. Mobile payments in China, something like $80 trillion expected this year. Compare that to maybe $750 billion in the U.S. It's nearly 100 times bigger. And their e-commerce is over 40% of the world's total. Any AI app there has an unbelievable amount of real-world data to learn from.
Okay, so massive data, massive user base for applications. What about those unmined gold mines?
Right. This connects back. China's AI growth in some ways hasn't fully kicked off yet, especially compared to the high valuations you see for U.S. AI stocks already. It's not just that valuations might be lower, it's that there's this huge domestic market potentially poised for explosive growth once they sort out their domestic chip supply.
The chip controls. That's been a major hurdle for
Yeah,
them.
definitely a weakness. U.S. export controls on advanced chips like NVIDIA's hit them hard. But that rigid demand, as they call it, has basically forced China to double down on developing its own independent AI chip industry. You see companies like Cambrian, people call it China's NVIDIA, their value has soared. That strategic vulnerability is driving domestic innovation.
So it's a really nuanced picture. The U.S. leads on the 0 to 1, the foundational stuff, the chip design, the big models, while China excels at the 1 to N, taking that tech, applying it, scaling it across their massive market. It really does sound like a race.
It absolutely is a high-stakes race.
And this kind of intense tech competition between global powers, it feels like it fits into a bigger picture, doesn't it? It reminds me of Ray Dalio's ideas about these big cycles in history, ones lasting about 80 years or so.
Yeah.
How does this AI race plug into those grand cycles? Why should we care about that historical context?
That's a great connection. Dalio identifies these 5 big forces that consistently shape history. First, there's the money and debt force. Creates wealth gaps, debt crises. We see that affecting countries like the UK, high debt making it harder to invest big in tech. Second is internal conflict. Wealth gaps, value clashes leading to political polarization, distrust. Very visible in both the US and UK today.
Definitely feels relevant.
Third, the geopolitical force. International conflict, especially a rising power challenging an existing one. We're clearly in a great powers conflict phase now, US, China, their allies. Fourth, acts of nature, pandemics, climate change. Historically, these often cause more disruption than wars. And fifth, the one that really ties in here, man's inventiveness, new technologies like AI. This is the force that boosts its living standards, but it also interacts with and often amplifies the other four. Dalio is pretty explicit. He believes the winner of the technology war ultimately determines the next world order.
Wow. That's a pretty stark framing. The winner of the tech war determines the world order. So
Check
given
that.
these forces, what are Dalio's specific concerns for places like the US and the UK?
He's quite candid, yeah. He's generally not optimistic about the UK's trajectory. He points to the high debt, the internal divisions, geopolitical vulnerability. But crucially, he questions if the UK has the right culture and capital markets now to really foster innovation at the scale needed for this AI race. Plus, they're losing millionaires.
Ouch.
Yeah.
And the US, he's concerned there too, right?
Yes. Also concerned about the U.S., significant debt, deep internal conflict left versus right, wealth gaps, values gaps, putting democracy at risk, he argues. The U.S. is also central to the global power conflicts and smack in the middle of this tech war with China. And Dalio makes this interesting observation. U.S. innovation and prosperity feel highly concentrated. The top, say, 110% are thriving. But a huge chunk, maybe the bottom 60%, struggle with basic literacy, productivity. That creates massive internal divisions.
That concentration issue is definitely something people talk about.
It is. And while some might argue the U.S. has this historical resilience, this ability to reinvent itself, maybe attract talent.
Right, the counter-argument.
Exactly. But Dalio poses the question. Is it conceivable the U.S. could lose its dominant global position in the next 50, 100 years? His answer is basically more than conceivable. He says these kinds of shifts always happen in history. It's not guaranteed, but it's a real possibility we need to consider.
Okay, so if the world feels, frankly, kind of scary, fast-paced, uncertain, with these huge forces at play, what does this all mean for you? For the individual listener trying to, safeguard their future, their finances, how do we navigate this?
Well, Dalio offers some core advice. It's broad, but I think it's very relevant for navigating this AI-driven future. First, he says, understand your own life cycle and your nature. Know yourself. Recognize life has ups and downs, and aligning your path with who you are you an entrepreneur? Do you value stability? That's key for satisfaction and success. Second, build real financial strength and flexibility. That means earning, spending, saving, investing smartly, obviously, but also having what he calls 3 holes, like a smart rabbit.
3 holes, meaning?
Meaning the ability to move yourself and, crucially, your capital to better places if things go sour where you are. Flexibility. He notes that things like buying a house, while often seen as a goal, can sometimes anchor your capital and limit that flexibility. Something to think about.
Interesting point. What else?
Third, and this feels critical now, cultivate hyperrealism and radical open-mindedness. Dalio stresses that your best learning comes from pain, from mistakes. The biggest tragedy, holding a strong opinion that's wrong when you could have figured it out.
So challenge your own assumptions.
Constantly. Stress test your opinions. Seek out smart people who disagree with you. Don't see disagreement as a fight. See it as a chance to learn. Foster curiosity. This is how you build solid principles for uncertain times. And finally, specifically on AI's impact on jobs, Dalio sees AI as a fantastic leveraging tool. Powerful, but he thinks it will create limited winners and a bunch of losers. It's going to replace a lot of jobs, even white-collar ones like lawyers, accountants.
That intellectual replacement.
Yeah.
Machines replace physical labor before.
Exactly. It's a parallel, and society will have to grapple with that. How do we ensure broad-based prosperity? For you, the individual, it means your ability to adapt, to learn new skills becomes absolutely paramount.
So, bringing it all together, what's the takeaway? We've covered this huge AI opportunity, the challenges, the U.S.-China dynamic, Dalio's big cycles. It really seems to underscore the need for personal principles, for adaptability, and just constantly learning in this incredibly fast-changing world.
I think that's right. Given how inevitable this tech revolution feels, how it could reshape basically everything, the biggest risk for you, for any individual, probably isn't buying the wrong stock or making one wrong career move. It's likely ignorance. It's missing the fundamental shifts, failing to adapt. The massive question hanging over all this is, can we as humans rise above it? Can we use this incredibly powerful tool, AI, for collective good, foster collaboration, broad prosperity? Or will our ingrained patterns, greed, conflict, will those define this new era, just creating winners and losers on an even bigger scale than before?
That is a truly provocative thought to end on. A lot to mull over. We really hope this deep dive has maybe sparked some reflection for you, thinking about your own life arc, as Dalio puts it, and maybe how some of these big ideas might shape the choices you make going forward. Definitely invite you to continue your own exploration. These are fascinating and vital concepts.